You guys, as I'm sure most of you watching can agree with this, it is once again the most wonderful time of the year because yes, NBA basketball is finally back. And while there were definitely many different talking points to take away from either of the matchups we saw to kick off this 2022-23 season, there was one team in specific that caught my eye more than anybody else, and as I'm sure you probably could have guessed by now, it is none other than the Boston Celtics. Because after an offseason, while yes, it did include some pretty positive outcomes, was focused on, for the majority at least, on negative news and headlines alone, it just seemed like the majority of people were either downplaying or completely disregarding what Boston is going to be able to bring to the table this season. And yes, while it is only just one game we've seen so far, from the looks of it at least, what Boston might have added and improved on going into this season could just be bigger than anyone might have anticipated. One sec though guys, if you haven't yet, don't forget to like the video if you do enjoy, subscribe, and turn on those notifications to never miss another NBA video. Love you guys. Trust me, with the season finally back into the full swing of things, we're going to continue to come out with brand new NBA content every single week, so I'll just say you do not want to miss out. Also, I wanted to apologize, I have a slight cold right now, so please bear with the voice if it doesn't sound like usual. But anyway, to get back on topic with the Boston Celtics, as mentioned at the beginning of the video, if you're more so labeled as the casual NBA fan, more than likely one of, if not the only headlines you saw regarding the Celtics over the course of the offseason either had to do with their absence of one of the best young rising coaches in the league right now, Ime Udoka, over the course of the entire season, or the injury to their defensive anchor in Robert Williams, sidelining him for what could be half of the year. And I do understand why these were so big, because either way, for good or for bad, these are definitely going to have implications on how the Celtics operate and pan out to end this season. But, I mean, what about everything the Celtics had to look forward to? Because relatively speaking, for one of the youngest rosters in the NBA to gain massive playoff and NBA Finals experience that they did last year, be led by a duo that, statistically speaking at least, has improved almost every single year that they've endured in the NBA thus far, and a team that added some very vital bench pieces that might make more of an impact than some people think. Yeah, I'd say aside from waiting to see how the final product actually looks on the court, the Celtics only improved from what they were as a team last year. But out of everything mentioned, I think it is a necessity for us to stop and talk about this guy. Yes, the man himself, Malcolm Brogdon. Because for a guy like Brogdon, who on paper at least, I think you could consider one of the most underrated point guards in the league over the course of his tenure with the Indiana Pacers, was more or less seemingly undervalued by the majority of the NBA world. And this of course is for a number of different reasons. And very quickly, if you think that Brogdon wasn't undervalued in the NBA world, the trade package alone that Boston had to give up to obtain Malcolm Brogdon should solidify that point in itself. But if you were to point to one reason over the other of why this is the case, it would most definitely be because of Brogdon's injury history. Because in his 3-year stint with Indy, he never played more than 56 games in one regular season, and he only averaged 48 games per year in that entire span. And while yes, obviously this can be cause for concern for any NBA team, people have just seemed to completely disregard what he can do as a player and more so what he can bring to a contending team. Especially in this sense when, as crazy as it sounds, he is your first guy coming off of the bench. And as I'm sure most of you saw, Brogdon had a stellar debut as a Celtic, putting up 16 points, 2 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals, and 7 for 11 shooting from the field. And all of this, as I also should mention, in just 24 minutes. And of course, while the scoring output and how seamlessly Brogdon was able to fit into the operation of this Celtics offense is very promising for the future of this team, I feel like where Brogdon is going to be able to complement and help the Celtics out best this season was not even the biggest takeaway of this game for him. And I mean, sure, if Brogdon's going to continue to put up numbers like this on the efficiency he did, I don't think any Celtics fan in the world is going to be complaining about this. But where his presence is going to be felt more than anything else, and it was somewhat seen last night, is really just this team's ability to add another true point guard into their rotation. Because even though this team has absolutely no issue sharing the ball with each other, and in fact they were second in the entire NBA as a team in assists per game last season, their lack of having a guy not even just to operate the second unit, but someone that could also gel into top rotational minutes as a true ball handler that they could trust was definitely noticeable, and at some times could have had a big impact. And just for example, by looking at last year's roster, and this is by no means whatsoever trying to take a shot at either one of these guys, but in no world should anyone think that they want either Peyton Pritchard or Derek White getting their quote-unquote point guard minutes over a guy like Malcolm Brogdon. And I do also know, before you hit me with it in the comments, that Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum both play a pretty big role and can in the future as well in terms of being the ball handler and operator of this offense, but this is more so just tailoring into the fact of how much more efficient the matchups and 5 sets are going to be for Boston going forward this year. And also to kind of stay on topic of the sharing and selflessness of this offense and what we saw in the first game and what we might also see all year going forward, because, well, in case any of you guys happen to have forgot, the NBA implemented the take foul rule over the course of the offseason, pretty much making it very unlikely you will see many intentional fouls going forward, stopping fast break opportunities. And I know that one game is not going to predict the entire season, but if it's any indication of what the Celtics intend to do over the course of this year, we might just see this young Celtics team run and gun more than ever before, as they outscored the Sixers on the fast break in this game 24-2, quite literally taking advantage of every chance that they were given in this aspect. And seeing this in itself, for me at least, really just highlights how dominant this Celtics offense could be over the course of the season. And I mean, sure, JT and JB are probably not going to be dropping 35 a game each 82 different times, and the offense is going to have to look elsewhere in order to hash out wins throughout the entire course. I think that, for the most part, while there might be some ebbs and flows along the way in terms of figuring out who is going to play where, that this team is going to be just fine. And then to touch on the defense, while we did see a more small ball oriented lineup thrown out there against the Philadelphia 76ers in the opener, and while this will also likely be subject to change depending on the opponent, it'll be extremely interesting to see how they are going to try to make up for the absence of the Time Lord. Because again, statistically speaking, when referring to last year, they should have no issue in terms of remaining as one of the top tier defenses. And I mean, in my opinion at least, his absence should only make the defensive aspect of this entire roster from top to bottom that much better. And of course, it will only also make them that much more lethal when one of the best in the NBA on this side of the ball finally returns. But anyway, again, I know it's just one game, so I guess we'll just have to wait and see. But nonetheless, with everything mentioned and seen regarding the Boston Celtics so far, I am also extremely curious to hear what you all have to think about their situation. So please let me know in the comments, how much of an impact are you expecting from Malcolm Brogdon on this team over the course of the entire season? And also, what has been the most surprising aspect that you've seen regarding the Celtics so far? But again, you guys, if you haven't yet, don't forget to go down below and leave a like on the video if you did enjoy, and of course, subscribe while you're down there. Because like I said, with the season finally back, we're gonna have so much to talk about over the next couple of weeks, so just believe me when I say it, you do not want to miss out. But also, I just wanted to say thank you so much to each and every one of you out there for watching. I appreciate you all more than anything, you all know this, and I will see you guys in the next video.